To a record in the cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, so if
Can it be done quickly?
yes, it's already recording. Do you see?
Yeah. All right. So
Okay,
let's start
done.
now. Let's start
Yes,
now.
yes.
Okay.
All right.
So, right. Okay, folks, my sincere and deepest apology for starting late, this late, almost half an hour late because of technical problems which we have never had before. And it's mainly due to our IT guys on the road because of the rain here. He couldn't reach home in time and so on. So good morning. It's always nice to have people from all over in our virtual meeting. This is the first time we're having a meeting in a Friday evening, so we can gauge the turnout, which is relatively small. We always have a meeting on your hands and take all precautions and so on wherever you are. Um, Good or bad during this pandemic, there is the news that it's from the CFK, New York to Guyana. We wish to congratulate a person of Indian origin who is
Dr. Kumar seemed to
something.
have dropped. Are you
Yeah.
still there?
Okay. So I'm resuming again. So, good or bad during this pandemic is the news that from December 11th, JetBlue will operate non-stop flights up to 4 times a week from JFK in New York to Guyana. We wish to congratulate a person of Indian origin who is the newly elected president of Seychelles, the archipelago in the Indian Ocean. The new president is Wavel Ramkalawan, a former Anglican priest. He is the grandson of an Indian immigrant laborer from Mauritius who then migrated to Seychelles. So we wish to welcome Wavel Ramkalawan, the new president of Seychelles. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a weekly forum being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center Company Limited, a legally registered research and publishing company operating since 2010. We are dedicated to highlighting and discussing issues and events that impact mainly Indo-Caribbean people in the region. We believe that they and their views are often marginal or marginalized in the mainstream media, formal discourses, and in public groups, organizations, and institutions. For example, today, October 30th, marks the 136th anniversary of the Hussein or Muharram massacre in Trinidad. There is absolutely nothing about this in the mainstream media or by formal organizations and institutions. Historians have described this tragedy as perhaps the bloodiest massacre in Trinidad and Tobago under British rule. On October 30th, 1884, 22 Indians were killed and 120 were injured when the British police opened gunfire at two Muharram processions in San Fernando. Ladies and gentlemen, the topics of these discussions are mainly on or about Indians, but these meetings are not for Indians only. This platform welcomes all regardless of ethnicity. This forum follows the Black Lives Matter movement with a mission to eradicate inequality, injustice, discrimination, and systemic racism. This forum is international in scope. It seeks to provide voice and visibility to a group that is an ethnic minority in the Caribbean. But nevertheless, it is the largest ethnic minority in the English-speaking Caribbean. This meeting would end at 9 p.m. or just about that time. For legal purposes and to avoid lawsuits of slander and defamation, we hereby state that the views expressed by presenters and participants are their own. and they do not necessarily represent those of Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center Company Limited. Our moderator tonight is Dr. Kirti Algu from Suriname. Dr. Algu is a young graduate of Anton de Kom University of Suriname, where she works as a researcher in the Institute for Graduate Studies and Research. She obtained her PhD in 2017, having done her dissertation on interreligious relations in Suriname and Guyana. At the moment, she's combining sports, martial arts specifically, with her academic career. Dr. Kirti, you can take it up from here as the moderator, and our first speaker would not be Purnima Nath, it would be Vandana, because she has to leave.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mahabir, for providing me with this opportunity and platform. Dear everyone, also apologies from my side for the delay, because this is the first time we have experienced this. This public meeting will take the form of a panel discussion. Please mute your microphone unless you have to speak. The background noise is often disturbing. Our topic tonight is the US presidential election, implications for India and the Indian diaspora. The presidential election in the United States this year is historic in more ways than one. For the first time in history, the Indian American vote is being openly sought. They number about 3 million people, almost the same as Indians in the Caribbean. They are just 1% of the population in the US, but do not be fooled by the number. In Trinidad, the 1% Syrian Lebanese white community is just 1%, but they control the government, the politics, the media, the economy, and the financial institutions. The Democrats have nominated Kamala Harris for vice president, who is of mixed Indian heritage. This in itself is historic, and US President Donald Trump has been courting Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In the Caribbean, Indians in Guyana and the Guyanese diaspora in the US have not forgotten the help of the Trump government in restoring democracy in the recent troubled elections. Our presenters will tell us who they think is the better choice for India, Indians, and Indian diaspora, and why. Now it is time for me to bring on our first speaker, who is Ms. Vandana Jingan from Chicago in the United States. She is the TV Asia Midwest Bureau Hindi Khabar USA correspondent and the commissioner of Schaumburg Board of Health and Sister City Commission. Vandana has a master's degree in industrial relations and personal management, a master's in marketing and sales management, a master's in public relations and journalism, and a master's in advertising and marketing. Wow. Ms. Jingan is also a certified yoga instructor. Vandana has a YouTube channel under her name. Welcome Vandana Jingan, and please speak for 8 minutes.
First of all, namaskar. Good evening to each and everyone. October the 30th, as Doctor mentioned, you know, the significance when we talk about we are just 3 days to go. Early voting started because the procedures in US is very different than the procedure of elections in the different parts of the world. There are mail-in ballots, they can be mailed. Then there is another early voting which starts that you can go to your local courthouses and you can vote in your county, you can vote. Then the suburbs and the cities that you live, then you can go and vote. That started on October the 19th. I live in Schaumburg, that's a northwest suburbs of the state of Illinois. And I just want to share that Purnima ji is a neighbor of ours. I live in Illinois and she lives in Wisconsin, so we are the border states to each other. Wisconsin is very much like a state which can be swinging, and Illinois has been blue for more than 81 years when we talk about, like, you know, we don't see in the city, like, no representation from the Democrat Party. As me being with the media, I started the Bureau almost 30 years ago. I came to this country. I came as a student American dream, everyone has it. So do I. I come from New Delhi, India. I did my master's over there. Then I studied here also in US. I've been observing when I hold a microphone, so you have to be non-partisan. You talk to everybody and you see who's the better. I'm always independent all my life. I pick the candidate and then we vote. But this election is very historic. I just want to say that. Why historic? Whole world is watching. US is the most powerful nation on the face of earth. We come from the largest democracy. I have voted in India too. And this is in US is the oldest democracy. We have never seen all my life, whenever we voted, it has been very quiet. Primary, then the main elections. It's a very democratic process and everybody is very well aware of it. I don't have to educate anyone. But this year, when you see that 2016, let's start from 2016. Actually, 2008, President Obama is from my state. We were on a first name basis with him, actually, because he was a friend when he was a state senator, then he comes to the Senate, and then he goes for a presidency. We used to meet, go for lunches, and we were very happy about it because race was never an issue. You talk about everybody has seen, because race is where the race is not there. Even in India, we just see because the opportunities that we just saw very recently when this lockdown did happen. People from New Delhi, those who have come from Bihar, those who have come from UP, they have to go back, right? So coming here, what it was told to me before and what it is that I have seen it. I've been always dressed up in my Indian attire, to be honest. And the people in India were not very comfortable. Purnima ji dresses up in the sari and she comes and she goes to the mainstream events also. So we never had any obligation, no problem. We do care. I always carry with my bindi, so no racism. Then what happened? We do see 2016 came in. Hello, President Obama gone and President Trump came in. Re-election is the choice of a people. We should respect. And the day this person took over, and the first thing, I got a message from the city of Chicago that the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, wants to host a press conference. Press conference for what? Early morning, it's just a result. And they want to make it a sanctuary city, Chicago. So everybody's welcome, nobody's ready to. I just want to know one thing. We came in a line, we came very documented. So I said, no, this is not going right. And then I started seeing more towards Republican side. I've been seeing it. And then we saw economy going up. We saw many jobs coming up. We saw tough stance when it comes to. We saw American, he is the first president in the history of America who said radical Islam. He's tough on terrorism. We from India, we have faced it. As a child, we know what happened, like in Kashmir, extradition, and many, because blast here and there, it's not been peaceful. When we came here, they were never, even the protests used to happen, we never got affected, they were peaceful protests. Media, I am from that, but we give chance to what you see, you say, but here, what they say, you have to believe it. How could that be that he is a people's choice? You have to give him a chance. And he delivered. Where he didn't deliver, you say the safety of the nation, international borders. Recently, we saw what he did in the Middle East, the peace accord. He's the first one. No war in his tenure. This is the president that we want. He talked about support, no interference. And on the other side, the candidate from the Democratic Party, he's talking about that he will be interfering in the India's affair about the abrogation of 370, and then comes CAA. CAA has nothing to do with any nation. It is for the India's internal part, and that is on a humanitarian grounds. So then comes Kamala Harris. Our Indian people felt that she's very happy, she is of Indian origin. And when in her acceptance speech, she said, I'm African American. Round of applause for her. Whatever she is, she has to claim. I have to say I'm Indian descent. We cannot just you cannot tell me. So coming back to, as we said, the time is going to be very short, I know, and I have to leave. So this, when you talk about the US election, the whole world is watching. This was the biggest mockery which started in July. Burning, looting, rioting. What happened? Antifa. This was not, And then when Democratic Party got a message that this looting is going to affect them, then the message comes and you see there is calm, peace. So what? Who's involved? We need to have a very strong investigation into this. Like, you know, we have just recently seen when President Trump went to India, New Delhi, Delhi was burned into ashes. India and US relationship, it cannot be avoided. India is the largest democracy. When we talk about the people, those who are H1 people, like, you know, those who come on IT, a day without a doctor, every sixth person who's a physician, Indian physician, IT, we are ruling. President Trump is not anti-immigration. He is all for skilled immigration. We have just seen it that H1 people, those who come here, he said they should be fair wages. It should not be that they should get exploited. Coming back to the nation, when India needed it in the China aggression very recently in the Ladakh, who sent the support? It was President Trump. He's been bold. 2 days ago, what we saw in France, are we ready for it in here? And President Trump has tweeted it. So is the Prime Minister Modi. So we are the two best alliance. And I, as being the person from the Indian diaspora, I agree, I support full-fledged, and I've been promoting that we must vote for Trump for 4 more years, keep America great again. Because if he's talking about America, like Prime Minister Modi is talking about India manufacturing, we should bring it back. So that's what he's saying. President Trump is very tough on China. When we talk about when he spoke about his acceptance speech, 25 times he just said, COVID, what do you mean? Biden is talking about COVID. So if Biden would have been like, so there would not have been COVID. It is not that Trump brought the COVID. He just calls it Chinese virus. So do I. It's not, and he has tackled it very well. And he held it himself. He was a COVID patient too. I mean, everybody knows that. And he's doing best for the country. He is doing best for the world. He's a very strong leader. And that is the leader that we need to have. Thank you very much. And I finish.
Thank you, Vandana Jingan from Chicago in the United States. Now we will continue with our second speaker, who is Ms. Purnima Nath from Wisconsin in the United States. She is an Indian-American engineer turned author, entrepreneur, activist, and former candidate for Milwaukee County Executive. She has an MBA from Northwestern University. Purnima is the founder, chairwoman, and president of Spindle India, and the creator and producer of India West Milwaukee. Purnima Nath is also the founder of 3X Strategy and Management Consulting. She is also the founder of the Hindus and Trump movement. Welcome, Purnima Nath. Please speak for 8 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I appreciate the invitation to speak with you today. And thank you so much, ma'am, for a wonderful introduction. So today I thought I will present you something. So bear with me for a second. Let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes,
yes, we are seeing a screen.
Yeah, there is a participant. Let me add. There we go. All right, wonderful. All right, so today's topic, Dr. Kumar asked me to speak about who is better for India and Indian diaspora. So let me, we'll go through a few slides very, very quickly. So there's 4 steps to the decision-making process. First, quickly, we'll look at US and India. We'll compare these 2 countries. We'll also look at comparison between both the candidates. And we'll also look at what's the connection between this with India and Indian diaspora. And we'll also look at a nation's leader. So quickly, let's look at US and India. So if you look at the page, if you could see, there are 2 distinctive connections, shared values between India and USA, which is democracy is one's largest and the oldest democracy. We are also growth, economy, and technology focused. But there are few common threats, both both the countries face, which is communism, Islamic terrorism, illegal immigration, border and national security, and also internal groups, breaking groups which wants to destroy and weaken this country. And a couple of the issues that they take around for United States, it's race; for India, it's caste, etc., like that. Now, if you look at one diagram on the right hand side, you clearly see when you add India and US together, you actually see a powerful natural combination. Now, tell me who wins if we are able to weaken India. Anybody wants to say? It's China, right? Now, so now today you have US as a superpower, basically, right? If you, because of the shortage of time, I will not play this video, but I wanted to play a 1-minute video for you to show you how in Milwaukee they passed the anti-CAA resolutions. I wanted you to take a look at, there was 4 people in the room. There was no communication in the community. It was done under the cover. It's the same players, and basically defamation act against India, BJP, Narendra Modi, and the sovereign country. Now, basically this is the attitude of Democrats. All right. Now let's look into this anti-India sentiment. It all stems from the Democrat Party. His campaign manager was Pakistani, and Pakistani holds very high position in Biden's campaign. Biden had been extremely racist towards Indian community and Hispanic and Black community. And Kamala Harris, Bandana ji touched on it. She does not say she's Indian American. She actually says she's South Asian American. So those are issues we find that's very raising red flags. Now, if you look at these, I categorically say 3 threats overall that we face, triple threats for US and India, which is communism, Islamism, and fascism. When you literally say connect all the different issues, they all fall under this umbrella, and to basically destabilize these countries. Now let's look at the candidate itself. Now I won't go too much, you can take a look at it, but if you look at Joe Biden and Donald Trump comparison, what is the accomplishment of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, and how long he had been in the office, 47 years versus 4 years. And characteristics we'll see, because if you, as we kind of established already, Joe Biden had been traditionally very racist against different color folks. But at the same time, if you look at these Russian collusion, Mueller report, impeachment, Smollett hoax, the cages that was built in, and the defamation act that was put on President Trump, it was all a big lies and conspiracy. It was never a Muslim ban. It was actually a travel ban. So when you look at destabilizing tactics, you can literally place all of them under one of these category: diversity, human rights, equality, and etc. like that. And if you compare just basic necessary basic differences between Joe Biden and Trump in terms of Indian policies, you can literally say he stood with anti-CAA. He stood, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they all stood with Kashmir, and they banned the space technology. They also want to teach Islam in school. They also want to have Islamic folks in every level of government. This is Joe Biden. Now, if you look at this, Trump had been quite strong in this whole entire case. He never made a comment on Kashmir. He also didn't interfere in India's sovereign decisions. Now, if you look at policies itself, who is weak and who is strong? In terms of China, It's literally, you can put cross on all the categories, whether China, Islamic terrorism, immigration, open border, sanctuary city, defunding police, weakening law enforcement over here, in terms of jobs, economy, international policies, trade, fair trade, freedom of speech and religion, government size, everything is negative. And Donald Trump had been, everything is good. Why I say this is very important in terms of economy, in terms of safety and security, and in terms of international policies. So these three categories are very, very important for determining who should be the leader of the country. Now, I bring you back to Biden and Kamala quickly, trying to tell you exactly who these two characters are. Biden is 77-year-old, and he does not remember anything in terms of where he is, what he's talking about, what his topics are, how many people are there, what role he's running in, etc. like that. A couple of times he said he's running for senator. So a major, out of everything else, this is the most compromising information. He's actually compromised by Islamists and Chinese CCP. Now, Kamala Harris. Who's Kamala Harris? Sometimes she's Chinese, sometimes she's Indian American, sometimes she's Jamaican, sometimes she's standing with Pakistan instead of Indian sovereignty. Her niece was disrespecting Indian goddess. She made dosa because she wanted to show that she's Tamilian, she had Tamilian descendant, etc. like that. Now, guess what? This gentleman is not going to be able to run the country based on his situation and current abilities. Our focus should be Kamala. Kamala is the Obama 2.0, right? Let's look at India itself. How does it all tie together? What is India? Without Hindus, Hinduism and there is no Hindustan or India. But at the end of the day, the goal is to destabilize everybody and cut the root of Hindus to India. So if you look at, this is the main information I want you to take a look. The goal is to disconnect Hindus to Hinduism, to Hindustan. So that means it's all gone. This is a quote I wrote on the left quite a while ago. Jews have Israel, Sikhs have Amritsar, Muslims have Mecca, Christians have Vatican. What does Hindus have? Hindus have India. So if you can disconnect Hindus to India, you are successful. You're successful in terms of destabilizing India and the Hindu diaspora. So let's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can you please wrap up?
Yes, just a minute. So quickly, if you look at the next slide, and if I can go in there. So there's several things that is being used in terms of attacking us Hindus. So that comes back to the nation's leader. Why and who should be nation's leader, and what's the criteria? If you look at countries' respect or protecting peoples or the law and order or the border itself or the God consciousness, I want to ask you, who fits the bill? Is that Biden or is that Trump? So let me answer the question for you. Basically, no for all these questions, and Trump aligns all. So this is why Trump must win, and this is why Trump is the right person. So recap quickly, this is what we covered today. We looked at comparison of US-India, candidates comparison, civilizational connection to India, and why Trump should be the leader. And that is it for you. And if there's any question, let's take it later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Purnima Nath, for this clear presentation, strong. We will now move to our third speaker, who is Dr. Vishnu Bisram. He is originally from Guyana and now lives in New York. He is a pollster and an international journalist on Indian diaspora matters. He taught American politics for 25 years in the USA. Dr. Vishnu Bisram has written extensively on political affairs, including on the Guyanese, Caribbean, and Indian diasporas and their involvement in American politics. Dr. Vishnu Bisram, the floor is yours. Please speak for 8 minutes.
I'll try to be much shorter than 8 minutes.
Great.
We cannot determine the outcome of the elections from our studios or from our homes, and we certainly are not going to influence who is going to win on Tuesday. So before deciding, before telling you who I think is going to win, let me begin by pointing out, firstly, that there is not only a presidential election, there is also congressional elections. And both are very important, and both also have implications for foreign policy and foreign relations, as well as for the Indian American and the Indo-Caribbean communities. So I think we need to put that in perspective. So and I also want to give some background in terms of voting numbers. So right now the polls are saying that Joe Biden is going to win the presidency, and that is also my personal analysis as well, that Joe Biden is going to win, and it's not going to even be close. I think it's going to be a blowaway, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it's comparable to what took place in 1980 when Ronald Reagan won almost all states. I mean, it wouldn't be to that same extent, but I do see a Joe Biden victory. And this has nothing to do with my personal preference. I'm just giving you an analysis based on my reading of the polls in each of the states. In addition to my seeing that outcome, I also see the Democrats capturing the Senate. They need 4 seats to capture the Senate, and I believe they will get at least 4, probably more. And I do see them picking up seats in the House. So I am predicting, well, I shouldn't say I'm predicting, the polls are predicting, and I'm in agreement with the polls that show a Democratic blowout on Tuesday. Whether it's good or bad for the country, I'm not giving my views on that. But in terms of foreign policy towards India, I don't think it really matters which candidate wins. Foreign policy generally don't change overnight. Foreign policy takes a long period of time before there are significant changes. And we have seen that with regards to Guyana. We have seen that with regards to India. For a very long period of time, United States foreign policy has been very hostile and antagonistic towards India. And for the last 15 years or so, the two countries have become very close. In fact, I would say now India and the United States is a partnership. So if Donald Trump loses, and I think he will lose on Tuesday, there will not be any significant change in relationship between India and the United States. Pragmatism steps in, and there will be a continuation of foreign policy. In fact, I think India and the United States might even get closer. So that's in terms of relationship. With relationship with the Caribbean and Guyana and Trinidad and the Indo-Caribbean community and nations, I still don't see any change with regards to the Caribbean as well. I have had friends who say they're voting for Donald Trump, and the reason they're voting for the Republican is that they feel that the Republicans will better protect democracy in Guyana. That is probably true because the government in Guyana was engineered out of office by the Democrats in 1964, and in 2015. And it was the Republicans who restored democracy in 1992 in Guyana, and again this year in 2020. But I just don't see the Democrats taking a position now to engineer the oust of this present government in Guyana. I think America's interest is first and foremost. In 2015, the United States didn't consider that regime, the Donald Rumsfeld regime, as being very friendly, and so it had to go, and they got rid of it. I think the relationship between Guyana and the United States changed over the last 5 years as a result of the measures taken by Barajak Deo, who wisely and smartly gravitated closer to the United States, recognizing that without the US, the PPP cannot survive in Guyana. As we had seen historically in Guyana, the PPP was toppled 3 times from office, and I believe they have read the message now that they're not going to be anti-American. So with regards to foreign policy, it makes no difference. Immigration is a very, very key issue in foreign relations and foreign policy. And the Donald Trump administration has been very hostile to immigrants, regardless of what other people are saying. We have seen the policy it implemented. We have seen the kind of language it has used against certain ethnic groups. By no means would I say Donald Trump is friendly towards Indian Americans. We have seen that he has raised fees for F1 workers coming to the US. I think each F1 worker has to pay some $50,000 US for a working visa, which I think is ridiculous. So I believe, and the polls have shown that only 28% of Indian Americans are going to vote for Donald Trump. The other 75, 78% are voting for the Democrats. And immigration may indeed play a role in it. Now, there are tens of thousands of Indian Americans who packed up and went back to India as a result of their being unable to get a green card. Some people make the point that, look, it may take 100 years for someone to get a green card based on the current system. That is quite true. But I believe Joe Biden is going to expedite the process because there's going to be a need for a lot of medical and scientific STEM workers in the United States. I don't see Donald Trump, were he to win, to implement any of those changes that will encourage STEM workers to come from India or the Philippines or any of the other emerging economies of the world that have been training STEM students. Many STEM people from the United States, from India, living in the United States, have gotten green cards to go to Canada, and they accept tens of thousands of them over the last 4 years. And I believe Joe Biden will put a stop to this. I believe foreign students are going to be welcome to come to the United States and study. And in the long run, I think a Biden presidency may be better. I'm not advocating for a Biden victory, but I'm just saying it seems to me that it would better serve and suit Indian Americans. And I see more immigrants coming here from India as a result of these kind of policies. And then I want to talk a little now about COVID. Donald Trump has given some assistance, COVID assistance, to the developing world. Guyana has been a beneficiary, Suriname, Trinidad, they've all gotten some assistance. But I believe the Democrats are going to give far more assistance than Donald Trump would. If Donald Trump were to win, people like countries like Guyana and Trinidad better hitch their wagons onto India, because that's where they're going to get a COVID vaccine from. They're not going to get it from Donald Trump, because Donald Trump himself wants India to give him the vaccine, because America cannot produce enough vaccine. And in fact, I don't think America produces any vaccine. All vaccines, practically all vaccines in the world are produced in India, and some in China. And even the Russians have ordered 100 million vaccines from India. And then I also want to now talk about geostrategic interests. Yes, it is in India's interest to be close to the United States. And Donald Trump has pretty much transformed our policy. I mean, we have had this 2-for-2 meetings over the last few days in India, which helps to secure India's standing against China. And we meaning Guyana would need the United States assistance as relates to geostrategic interests vis-a-vis Venezuela. I think with Venezuela, with the United States having a very close relationship with Guyana, I don't think Venezuela is going to play on Guyana. So overall, I believe Joe Biden is going to win. And I believe there will be no major change in U.S. foreign policy towards Guyana or towards India and in the Indian diaspora in general.
Okay. I was about to interrupt you. Okay, thank you for your presentation, Dr. Vishnu Bisram from New York. Now, our second to last speaker, she is well known on this forum. Her name is Dr. Indira Ramprasad from Trinidad. She is a lecturer of political science and international relations at the University of the West Indies. She was an election observer for the Organization of American States, OAS, in Grenada, El Salvador, and Guyana. Dr. Rampersad's doctoral dissertation focused on American foreign policy to Cuba. Her research now extends to Latin America, to Latin American and Caribbean politics and international relations, American foreign policy, alternative energy, food security, and crime, with specific emphasis on the Caribbean. Dr. Indira, please speak for 8 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like permission to share screen. So Dr. Mahabir, or maybe your IT guy can help me here. I'm still disabled.
Purnima is the host, yeah.
Yes, I have to give you a host. There you go.
So am I okay now?
Yes.
Yeah. Try now.
There we go. Can you see it? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so good evening again, everyone. I was hoping Dr. Bisram would take less time so I will get more, but that didn't happen. So I'm going to speak about a few things. I'd like to organize myself. I know we want to keep it conversational, but I always like to structure my discussion. So I want to talk about the Indo-American vote camp and the significance, and that is really the thrust of my presentation, the significance of the Indo-American vote. I wanted to insist that the vote is important for two particular reasons: campaign financing and also the impact on the swing or battleground states. I'll also look at Kamala Harris and what she brings to the fore. And if we have time, probably wouldn't have time, but several of the speakers have spoken about it already, is to touch on foreign policy. Like Dr. Bisram, I'm not an advocate here, so I'm not going to use this forum to campaign on anyone. I don't have a vote, so fortunately I can be totally objective. So let's look at the impact of the Indo-American vote. It has been overwhelmingly Democrat in the past. There are about 4.4 million Indo-Americans out of the 331 of the US population. They are the second largest immigrant group in the US after the Mexican Americans. Between 2000 and 2018, the Indo-American population grew by about 150%. 77% of Indo-Americans had voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. 16% voted for Trump. 84% voted for Obama in 2012. 72% of the Indo-Americans, and these are from a lot of polls that I have looked at, but didn't want to put them to save time, didn't want to list them. But according to the polls, and the predominant view is that about 72% of the Indo-Americans intend to vote for Biden and 22% for Trump on Monday. The Indo-American vote is also directly proportional to income and education. So we saw in 2016, 78% of them with annual incomes of $150,000 or more came out to vote. Among those with a $10,000 annual income, just 41% voted. So more income and better education mean more interest in the political system and more interest in voting by Indo-Americans. Both Biden and Trump vigorously courted the Indo-American, have vigorously courted the Indo-American vote, mainly for two reasons, which I've identified, that is for campaign financing or funding, and for the impact on the swing or battleground states. So we have seen this courting taking place through the party holding certain functions where they inviting Indo-Americans to come in. Biden releasing a video with a song remix from the popular Bollywood movie Lagan about an Indian village fighting for British rule. We will remember that movie. It was quite popular in its days because it spoke to cricket, it dealt with cricket. Trump supporters also released a video by promoting Trump's son and his girlfriend. And there are two campaigns, one in September 2019, I believe, was the Howdy Modi when Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi, came to Houston, where there were about 50,000 Indo-Americans hailing him and that was actually seen as the largest event in the US for a foreign leader. And then in February this year, they launched a Namaste Trump rally in Ahmedabad in India, and that was attended by about 110,000 Indians, and that was held at the world's largest cricket stadium. You know, they had a lot of viewership on that event. So this pic depicts that Houston rally, where there were about 50,000 Indians. And the picture here is Trump and Melania in front of the Taj Mahal when they went to India. And this they have been using in advertising campaign in the US for this election. So the Indian community in the US is extremely affluent, and they have been quoted, as I said, for campaign financing. The diaspora they earn more than any other ethnic group in the US. The median annual household income of Indian American voters is about $139,000 US dollars, compared to less than 80,000 for whites, Hispanics, and African Americans. Indo-Americans have been the largest contributors in the electoral funding in terms of per capita. They had contributed more than 3 million to the 2020 presidential campaign so far, and that was a figure for September. Shalab Shali Kumar, he's a noted Indian American industrialist. He's donated 898,800 for the campaign in 2016. At a single fundraising event in September, the Biden Victory Fund raised a record-breaking 3.3 million, more than the coveted donors of Hollywood. And I recently picked up this figure. Today, I believe, Biden now receives about 5.4 million and Trump about 3 million from the Indo-American community. So they've contributed a lot to the presidential campaigns, and this has been in successive elections. I think I have duplicated that slide. But the last point I want to make is that Indian Americans donated more than 1.2 million to the Biden campaign in the 20 days after former VP selected Harris as his running mate. So when Biden selected Harris, 20 days after, they got $1.2 million. So Kamala Harris, I said she's a multi-dimensional trump card, and no pun intended, really, because she's really an anti-Trump card. By picking Harris as his running mate, Biden and you know, this Kamala Harris, she's of Indian. Her mother is Indian. Her father is Jamaican. She is Indian Caribbean descent. They have mobilized significant support from the Indian American community through her. She is very, very vocal about her biracial identity. She embraces her Indian roots, the impact of which is most visible at fundraisers. She is what we will call in the Caribbean, and particularly in Trinidad, a Douglas. So I'm speaking a little bit here about Douglas politics. And Douglas are embraced by many groups in the US. And we now can see that Biden can get the Indian American vote because of her, to a large extent. I'm not saying all, African Americans as well, because of her Jamaican ancestry, Indo-West Indians from Trinidad, Guyana, and Suriname as well, Afro-West Indians, and Douglas and other mixed West Indians from elsewhere, because they are Douglas not only from the Caribbean. So I think it is very difficult for Trump to make significant inroads into the Indo-American community with Kamala as Biden's running mate. She's the first Indian American and the first Black woman to be on a major party ticket. All right, so so this is his running mate picture here. And let me just touch quickly on the swing battleground states.
1 minute, please.
Or the election, this is so important, Pluty, it's so important. So we would see that while Trump won the last elections with 306 electoral votes, and I assume everyone understands the system, Hillary got 232. Several states were won by 1.2% or less. And let me go quickly to the next slide so you can see those figures. Wisconsin, we can see Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida, Arizona. These are states that that Biden can comfortably win in this election. And these states have, if we look at the amount of Indo-American voters in these states, and we look at the margin of victory from 2016 in the third column here, we can see that the Indian Americans can tip the balance. And this is the point I wanted to make, that they are very, very significant force in these elections, the Indo-American vote. They are small, they're probably about 1% of the electorate, but they can make an impact on the swing and battleground states. So I want just to keep in mind that they are important for two reasons. for the campaign financing because they are affluent, they're highly educated, and they're also important in swing or battleground states, what we call marginal constituencies in Trinidad and Tobago. I just want to touch on one issue with the Caribbean, which is not mentioned. I think it's important. It's I think Caribbean people are interested in who win this election because of the Venezuela situation. We know we have a migrant crisis here. Guyana and Trinidad and those countries close to Venezuela are feeling the pitch. We would recall in our local elections, the UNC or the Indo-based party supported Juan Guaido, whereas the current PNM party supported Maduro. So I think that this may have an impact. Their policy to Venezuela may have an impact. Whether it will remain the same as Dr. Bistram said, I am not sure if US policy to Venezuela will change with a new president. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Indira from Trinidad. Please, everyone, if you're not speaking, can you please mute your microphone? Dinesh, can you please mute your microphone? It's disturbing. All right, so we're now moving on to our final speaker, who is a discussant. That is Dr. Baituram Ramharak, who is originally from Guyana and now lives in New York. He is an adjunct associate professor of political science at Nassau Community College in New York. He is the author of the book Balram Singh Rai and the Politics of Guyana. His third book is on Jang Bahadur Singh of Guyana. The Amazon release of his last book will be launched in the Zoom meeting, in the Zoom forum next week, Sunday, same time as now, right here. Dr. Baituram, please speak for 8 minutes.
Thank you, Kirti. That's very generous of you. I have not voted yet. I live in New York, but there is a very robust discussion in my house. My daughters and my wife prefer one candidate. I'm leaning on the other side, but we are going to vote tomorrow. So we will probably settle this tonight or early morning before we head to the polls. So this is the early voting. I think there's a distinction to be made between the two presenters who obviously, take a position. And the second, the two other, speakers may not have said anything kind about Trump, so which may maybe left the two ladies up front a little uncomfortable. But let me just say a couple of things. One, it's very difficult, to try to predict how this election is going to go, because we had, the previous election, you can't trust the polls really. I mean, it depends on who you're looking at, Fox News or CNN, they tilt to one side of the candidate. And there are, as we know from the last election, that there are some voters who may be embarrassed about Trump's behavior, that they may not be honest, with these surveys. But just to kind of to touch on a couple of points, we don't have a lot of data. We don't have a lot of studies that has been done on how the Indian diaspora, the Indian community, or the Indian community from the West Indies, how they would normally vote. So that's an area that's been very understudied. But there's been one that I found, which was done recently by 3 Indian scholars, and they are part of the Carnegie Endowment for Peace. And they have done a survey of about 936 million Indian Americans, right? And obviously it's an online survey, so you have to be very careful, as Dr. Bishram will tell you, you have to be careful with these surveys. So here are some findings, based on their survey of Indian Americans. And by the way, I know Kirti said the population may be about 3 million. I think it's about 5 million, maybe more, right? They're considered the model minority, but we have to keep in mind it's about 1% of the population. They are about 1% of registered voters, so they may not have, when you look at the big picture, they may not have a tremendous impact, from a national perspective, but as Indira said, obviously in those swing states, those battleground states, as they call them, they may have some impact in those states. So let me come back to this, what this survey revealed. So here are a couple of things. One, according to the three researchers in this study, Indian Americans remain solidly behind the Democratic Party. Right, that's one of the um, findings from this survey. Secondly, they're saying that Indian Americans do not consider U.S.-India relations to be one of a principal determinant in how Indian Americans will vote in this election. A third finding was that US-born Indian American citizens tend to tilt more towards the Democratic side, or more towards the left, if you want to call it that, compared to foreign-born citizens who tend to be more conservative. The other finding was that Kamala Harris has mobilized Indian Americans, especially Indian Americans, who are connected with the Democratic Party. So those are four findings which I think coincide with the presentation and the information, shared with us here by the last two speakers. So to come back to the question now, what are the implications for India and the Indian diaspora? I do believe that the fact that you had foreign policy changes under the Trump administration, that may have some impact, not necessarily for the diaspora here, but in terms of relationship with the United States and those other countries, specifically with India and Guyana, the two that Guyana I'm more familiar with. One of the things, and this was mentioned before, the fact that you had, Trump went to India, you had that major, what do you call, rally where they met in that stadium in Ahmedabad and then again in Houston. I do believe that sort of symbolized the Asian Americans, that the United States can play a functional role. I'm not sure to what extent this will influence their vote, but if we assume, well, we don't have to necessarily assume, but we do know that the Indian American community are, in a sense, they call them the model community. They are very progressive. And this poll has also shown that they are more concerned about three major issues. One is they're concerned about the economy. And again, that seems to coincide with the fact that they're educated, they're upwardly mobile. The other issue they seem to be concerned about is the issue of healthcare. And the third one, interestingly enough, again, based on this survey, was the issue of racial discrimination. So those three are concerned, right? But I do believe that there are some Indian Americans who are also share a deep concern because there's a closer relationship that's being built with the United States under Trump. There were some things that were mentioned before. We talked about the whole issue, with India taking stronger control over Kashmir, and the whole idea of defining, Indian citizenship with this new act that was passed. But I think there was something also very significant. Again, I don't know to what extent this may influence the minds of Indian American voters, but that has to do with the fact that under this administration, you have three significant military alliances that were formed or established between the United States and India. And one of those, agreement has to do with something called BECA, B-E-C-A, which is the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement. So for the first time, very first time since India's independence, you have a very close military, a deep military alliance with the United States and India concerning security. And here it is, America is willing to share some of its most secret military ideas and strategies and so on with India instantly, so to speak. And I think the fact that the United States has formed this sort of arrangement to share that kind of information with India, it does bring the two countries together. So my point here is that we can't necessarily predict, though I may share the same belief with my friend, Mr. Bishram, that the American public may be leaning more towards Biden, even though, we can't be too sure. We're going to have to wait, not necessarily on the night of November 3rd, maybe a couple of days after to know the result. But the other point I want to make here is that I do believe that folks from the Caribbean, especially Guyana, may tilt towards President Trump. And again, I'm not talking about issue here. I'm talking about liking the person or disliking the person. I think most Guyanese who are supporters of the PPP, in their mind, know that the fact that the US government has helped to break a deadlock after 5 months following the election to remove an illegal government in place. And the fact that it was a Secretary of State, a high-ranking American official who went to Guyana and promised a tremendous amount of assistance to Guyana. I think all of those things will play in the way Guyanese Indians will vote in this election. But the fact still remains that many of them may not be registered to vote. So I guess my last point about this, listening to the speakers here, is that what I see happening here is that I do believe that foreign policy may not change tremendously, but there has been and there is an opportunity here with the Trump administration to work closely with the diaspora, not necessarily in the United States, but we're talking about Indians in India or other parts of the Caribbean. And indirectly, that working relationship will help to bring America closer together. But more importantly, it may determine how the foreign policy of India may be shaped and how the foreign policy of Guyana and how those leaders will behave in the future. So I do think America has a tremendous influence in that sense. And to kind of to top this off, whether it's Trump or Biden, I believe those policies may continue. But the fact that Trump has established a very strong military agreement or agreements with India, I think that goes a long way. And I think that may resonate with some of the Indian American voters in the United States.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Barturam Ramhawarak from New York and Guyana. So now we will open the floor for questions, comments, and contributions. They must be short, no more than 2 or 3 minutes, followed by brief responses from the presenters. This session will be coordinated by Dr. Kumar. So Dr. Kumar, can you please take over from here?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Kirti. She has to leave because she has an assignment to do, academic work. Thank you very much, and we hope you will be the moderator again soon. Right, so Q&A now. We will end at 9:15. So let's say we have 10 minutes again because we started late. We'll end a little late. I see Mr. Hemant Patel has his hand up. We want short questions and short answers. I want to emphasize the brevity of it because we want maximum participation. Yes, Mr. Hemant Patel.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for giving me this chance. I have a question to Dr. Vishnuji. First of all, the world, right now, the biggest problem for this world and the humanity is radical Islamic terrorism. In your opinion, who is better equipped, Mr. Biden or Trump? So that is one question. Second question, right now, do you agree that the US and Pakistan relationship, Pakistan, the terrorist country relationship, is at the worst case? And at the same time, the relation between US and India at the highest, at the topmost. Do you give any credit to President Trump? And also, the funding from US to Pakistan is the lowest at this point. Do you think President Trump is responsible for that?
So short responses, Dr. Vishnu, short. You have to unmute. Unmute your mic. You have to unmute, Vishnu. We're not hearing you.
Yeah, Trump is a no-nonsense president. He spoke his mind. He was very tough on Pakistan, and we you know, he supported, of course, he supported Modi in those attacks across the border. So who is better for India-US relationship? As I indicated before, I really don't think it matters. I do think that Biden is going to also support India against Islamic terror as well.
Evidence. I gave you the evidence based on the evidence. Now, I mean, there is nothing about prediction. I am giving you the evidence that the relation between Pakistan and USA is the worst in last 70 years. And at the same time, relation between US and India is at the topmost, the best. Why can't we give any credit to President?
Oh no, I am not saying no. I did
funding
say no, but
to
I
the
did
Pakistan,
say, no, but I did say
funding,
that Trump
funding
has
to the
supported
Pakistan
India.
is at the lowest level. Okay.
No,
Okay.
Trump has
And
supported
during
India
this
unqualified.
campaign, this campaign season, so their stands are very clear. Mr. Biden and Kamala stands against India are very open, very clear.
Now, listen,
There is no doubt. There is no doubt about it. So do
I
you
don't
think
think
after becoming
Biden,
president?
Kamala Harris is going to
Mr.
embrace
Hemant.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Okay.
my important question about the terrorism. The world's biggest problem is a radical
It
Islamic
is.
terrorism.
Yes, Islamic terror is
Who
a serious
can
problem
take
the world
care of
over.
it
Yes.
better? Who?
Okay,
Biden or
good.
Trump?
I see Krishna Bhatta had his Bhatta had his hand up. So ask your question. Be brief, please.
Well, it's not a question, really. I just wanted to make my comment, and I usually don't disagree with Vishnuji, but here I do. I think I know the polls, some of the polls and major polls are showing Biden as a leader, but there are other specific polls that I have read, and the trend I see in many of the discussions I have been involved, I will stick my neck out and say that President Trump will come back. And of course, yes, Hemantji, I agree, he will be better for India. But if Biden comes, he will have to comply with, Indian policies as well. But it definitely, Trump will be better for India-US relationship.
Thank you.
So that's all I wanted to make my point.
Dr. Indira, can you hand back the host permission to Purnima?
Okay, so just tell me, how do I do that? How do I do that?
Go ahead and right-click next to my name. First, bring the participant list.
Right.
Do a right-click on there.
Right.
On my name, and you will see make host.
Okay.
Right. So we will move on now. Any question from the audience? We have heard a lot from the presenters. From the audience, any brief comment or question?
She is Purnima. Right, click on her name.
I have a question, Dr. Kumar. I have a question. This is Mike.
Yes.
Why is it that every single right-wing group in the United States, including David Duke from Louisiana, all those groups in Charlottesville a few years ago, why is it that every single right-wing group is attracted to Trump? Is there something about this candidate? There were two Indian Americans who were, one of them was shot and killed in a bar in Kansas a few years ago. And another right-wing guy went in with a gun to a Jewish temple in Philadelphia, I think, a few years ago. And they all said that they were inspired by the message of Trump. Today, the sword of Damocles is hanging over the United States. A real palpable fear is sweeping this country that if Trump wins again, there is going to be trouble. In today's paper in Los Angeles, all the shop owners there are boarding up their stores, afraid that if Trump loses this election, violence will break out. Is there something wrong with Trump? Why is there so many times in the last few years I heard or I read it or see it on TV, even Republican people are saying this man is unfit to be president. Don't we have to look at this record?
So
Second thing, one last point. Those two American Asian Indian women who are rooting for Trump here so strongly, are they aware that the United States, even under a Democratic president, this movement started to strengthen the relationship with India long before Trump came to power? And that was to develop a relationship with India to be a bulwark against a rising China. So Bisram is right. It doesn't matter whether we have a Republican president or a Democratic president. This strengthening relationship with India is going to go on for a larger purpose that suits America. Thank you.
Right. So we'd have Purnima or Vandana respond briefly, please.
Okay. I would like to ask a question to Mr. Mike Pershore. Do you know that Trump and his administration actually supported India for Chinese aggression? Do you know Trump is the first president who actually stood by India against Pakistan? Do you know Trump administration is the first administration who reduced terror funding on Pakistan? Do you know Trump administration has not commented or interfered in India's sovereign country's decision? Do you know India finally have a proper relation with United States? When you accused saying that Indian American women are supporting right-wing Trump because America as a country was built on certain principles, freedom, liberty, and opportunity, which is what as a Hindu Indian American I see that Islamic terrorism and Chinese aggressions and expansionism is going to be hurting not only India, but also the world and including America. Do you know China has been tremendously hurting Indian border in terms of LSE? Do you know in the northeast top corner of India, China had been encroaching? Do you know?
All right, enough of that.
One second.
Enough. You give a long list there. Listen.
Do you know, just a second, you asked a lot of questions, so let me just finish in a quick thought. Do you know China has been a tremendous, atrocious body working and using Pakistan as a pawn against India? So when you say why why we as Indian Americans supporting Trump, and I don't know what your definition of right wing or left wing. I'll tell you something. We are not part of Congresses who supports MAMOU with Indian government, a political party kind of deal. That's not going to work over here. We support America with President Trump. India and US relationship is going to improve.
Purnima,
okay, Mike.
Trump is a transactional president.
So what?
Everything is what is in it for him.
So what? Biden
you have had your say. Let us give.
Right-wing violence is threatening this country right now.
What
Be
about
careful.
Antifa?
Radical Islamic terrorism. Radical Islamic terrorism is the biggest threat to
we have heard
America
enough
and the world.
You talking about right-wing extremism. I'm talking about left-wing extremism who's going under the Antifa, which is called anti-fascist, but they are actually left-wing, and they have collaborating with BLM, which is a Marxist group trying to dismantle and destabilize this country. I'm part of America. I don't live in India. I will be watching out for this country's betterment. And these left-wing groups, which is KKK, and all these left-wing groups are not helping this country.
Left-wing group in America is not a threat to America. The right-wing group is a threat to America.
What is going on in France,
let's have
UK,
a new question
Sweden.
from
USA is only 10 years behind from them.
We will close.
Watch it.
One question from Tara Singh or Ravidev, and we will close with a response from Vandana. Vandana would have the last say. Any question from Tara or comment or Ravidev? Okay, Vandana, you have the final word, and then we close because we have started late.
Kumara, I just wanted to say something, if you don't mind.
Okay, briefly.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get my 2 minutes, but the previous speaker took all our minutes. Yeah, I just wanted to make a point. I do think there will be a difference in the foreign policy. It may not be a substantial difference. I certainly think the attitude to immigration, and all Indians have suffered that under Trump, the issue of immigration. and his whole attitude to the coronavirus and illegal immigration and legal immigration as well. I think the Indian American community is also concerned about racial discrimination. They are concerned about education, access to healthcare. They are concerned about the H-1B visas. And I think these are important issues. Biden has actually been collaborating since he was vice president with India. India and the United States have long history of collaboration on strategic defense, economic, regional, global challenges. They have a long history of attempting to stabilize the region, the Indo-Pacific region, and in keeping China at bay as well. So I think that with respect to that, there will be some continuity, but Trump has been handling this with more belligerence and more aggression. But that doesn't mean that the Democrats have not also been dealing with these issues. So he wants to, Biden also wants to deepen cooperation in higher education, space exploration, and humanitarian relief. So with that, I like I said, I wanted to talk about foreign policy, but didn't have the time. So I think we really need to be balanced because I think a lot of emotions are flying here. Okay, thank you.
I just
okay. Yes. So Hemant, you have spoken already, sir. So Vandana was.
Here I go. First of all, to the speaker who was before me, Induraji, H1 is not a guarantee to the road. And so that this is a temporary visa, a work permit that people come. And they do sign that contract before coming. They all are aware of it. In process, it happens. That's a different issue. So don't. President Trump is all for legal immigration, all for skilled people. He doesn't, don't you have wall in your house? What he's asking, people are jumping without background search. If people are, what is happening in St. Paul, Minnesota? We just finished 2,000 cities had this looting, riots in 50 states. We just saw that. Burning police cars, we saw that. We have never seen that. We have seen looting of businesses. We have never seen that. Kenosha, where Purnima ji lives in Wisconsin state, a car dealer, an Indian American, he is burned down to ashes, his dealership. People were trying to build again. And then what happened? There is a second rage. Then happened another rage. Then happened every week. Can you believe it? From January to July, 2,240 shootings in the city of Chicago itself. In the city of Chicago, when President Trump mentioned that he is ready and prepared to send National Guards, and so-called our madam here, she's an African-American, when you talk about the racism, and she said, Madam Lightfoot, she's a mayor. She said, yeah, you can send it, but don't touch our peaceful protesters. President Obama, who got 8 years, when he was speaking during the convention, he said they are peaceful protesters. I mean, like, lie. It's a blatant lie. I hope none of your family members, none of your friends or your extended family has got impacted. I have seen on ground what all they have gone through. So I am all for 4 more years, keep America great, economy, China, tough on China. What you talk about BLM, Biden laptop matters? I mean, this is very, so unhealthy. And we all are the educated people, literate people, I must say that. Education has to be there. We want President Trump for 4 more years, and after that also. We are hardworking people. We are educated as well as literate people.
Thank you.
There has to be one more, the last one. When we talk about giving, you know, I believe in teaching fishes, not give fish every moment. Welfare has a limit. When we came to US as a migrant, we came to a capitalistic country, not to a socialistic country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we are going to close here now.
Last important question or comment? Last important
program.
Question. America is a democratic country.
No, sir. Please. You have spoken quite a lot. We must close now. And
just important comment, one simple, half second.
Thank you all for participating. Thanks to the presenter for participating. This has been an experiment. We usually have our programs on Sunday night, and we tried it because of the urgency, because election in the US is in a few days, and we have already had a schedule which we are going to resume. So thank you all, Purnima, Vandana, and Vishnu, and Betoram, and Dr. Indira, and all of you for taking the time. There's been an excellent program. Pity we had that hiccup in the beginning with our IT. But these things do happen in this age of technology. Join us Sunday after tomorrow for our regular public meeting. It's on the Irie Theatre Productions of Trinidad and Tobago. It's a drama group, and they are going to show excerpts of their plays and so on. And we would have a wonderful time on Sunday when we number between 50 to 80 participants. So thanks to all of you, and we are going to end here. Bye bye, and take care of yourself, and may God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Mahabir. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Mahabir. Wonderful session.
Go ahead and Dr. Mahabir, you're still there? Dr. Mahabir, you're still there? Dr. Mahabir, are you still there? Okay. Dr. Mahabir, are you still there?
Purnima, why don't you try to get him on WhatsApp?
Yes, I'm wondering if he wants me to close that.
Yeah, I'm sure he would want you to close it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna, because I want to make sure that he gets the recording. I'm making it in the cloud, so he will have it.
Yeah. Anyway, good presentation. I agree with all your points about India.
Sure. I mean, I think I know we have a difference of opinion over here, but I'm sure Trump is the best person in this case because he's good for America as well. Biden will not be.
Oh, I'm not saying he's worth. Yes, I agree with you. He's better than Biden for India.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would matter in the end, regardless of who wins.
Yeah, because if Democrats win, what issues we will face is the sanctions against India. They have already.
No, I don't see any sanctions coming.
They actually have started that. They started the process because Representative Pramila Jaipal has been trying to push House resolution. So the first anti-CA resolution that came out of Seattle, that was backed by Jaipal. Jaipal has been trying to push that resolution sanction against India for quite a while right now. So if Democrats come, it's just going to snowball effect. Basically, it's not just one sanction that is going to.
Let's hope it doesn't, but I don't think it would. All right. Good night.
All right. Good night. All right. Bye.
Yeah, Chief. Yeah, I was about India-US relations.